Today, we're gonna show you how to build a cantilever gate just like this one. And this one right here is not, it's up here, hold on. This one right here is just a model, but we're gonna show you how to do the real deal today. So today we got an order for a cantilever gate that needs to fill an opening that's 25 feet long. A cantilever gate, because it is levering on this wheel here when it's closed and this wheel here when it's open, the gate actually has to be 1.5 times the gate opening plus 1 foot. The reason it has to be 1.5 times the length of the opening is because this whole section here, this opening, is free floating. And when it's free floating, you have to have something in tension on the back to keep it from sagging. We have compression on this wheel, and this one is creating upward compression. Now, as the gate opens and slides along these wheels, we transfer the weight, so now it's opposite. So now the back end of the gate is free floating, and the front end of the gate is now applying upward compression on this roller and downward compression on this roller. And that's why it's so important that we get these gate rails straight, because as they pass through these rollers, if there's any fluctuation up and down, you run the risk of it pushing the roller out of the way, and then it could fall out of the rollers, which would be a hazard. Now, having a miniature model is fantastic, but let's take a look at it in the life-size scale. We'll just take this here and this is very similar in size to the gate that we're building right now. This is what we call a 7 by 24. 24 feet is actually the gate opening, not the length of the gate. That means the gate has to be 1.5 times plus 1 foot the gate opening. So 24 feet times 1.5 is 36, plus 1 foot for our stops makes it 37 feet. So we have compression downward force on this roller here, but over here we have upward force on this roller because the gate is closed. Now when we open the gate, it'll be the opposite. We'll have downward compression here, upward compression there. So now you've got the general idea of what we're doing. Let's go show you what I've drawn up. So now in the drafting office, we're gonna take all of our measurements that we were given and we'll do the math from there. So 1.5 times our gate opening plus 1 foot gives us this 462 inches. I divide that number by 60 because we want our verticals to be as close to 60 inches apart as possible. That puts us approximately 67 inches on center. And then we bring it over into the BendTech software and you can see what the gate is supposed to look like. Now we're ready to cut. All right, so we're ready to start cutting our long stringers that go on the top and bottom of this gate. We're gonna nip this manually. Our BendTech is a wonderful machine, but it can only handle so long of material. These being longer than what it handles, we have to do these by hand. We use our handy dandy nipper. Okay, push, good. So this just nips out a cope shape. Oop, we didn't get far enough in there. There we go. Nips out a cope shape so that a piece of pipe can fit in here just like that. Now the fun part, flipping it around. So here we have to look at this cope down here so that we can make sure that it is still vertical. Now, of everything that we have to do, getting these parts nipped at the beginning is the trickiest part. This is the most labor intensive.
Yeah, I didn't go far enough in.
Oh. Is this one heavier than the first one?
It's Monday. Everything's heavy on Monday.
Woo, back up. Should the lines be the same?
Yes, right. There.
Perfect. Perfect. With those two parts done, those are the trickiest parts. Now we're gonna go ahead and load up the machine and cut all of our infill pieces. Should I do that when I'm not winded? So next we're gonna get to use this wonderful machine called the BendTech Dragon A400.
BendTech Dragon.
This machine is intended specifically for custom coping, bend marks, and cutting pipe. We can do round pipe, square pipe, rectangular, C-channel, and angle iron. We've got our first piece loaded. This is 1 7/8 Schedule 20 galvanized pipe that we're gonna use for the infill of these gates. This is the business end of this machine. Here we have a plasma. This is what does all of our cutting. We have an engraver. We also have the Sharpie. For our application today, we'll be using the Sharpie to mark and tell us what each individual part is. That way they're labeled. It makes it really easy to go through the schematic and put them right where they go. The only other thing this has is this laser, which helps you make sure that your material is where it needs to be. So as long as we can see laser, we're far enough into the material. Just like our plasma table, it can run with water, which helps reduce the amount of smoke and soot we put into the air. With that being said, we still recommend wearing a mask and having excellent ventilation. None of this is stuff that you want to be breathing in. With all the pieces cut out, we're ready to start the fit and tack stage. We've started leveling it. We've got a laser level that is level to the world because it sits on a gimbal and it shoots out a laser that creates a beam across this whole area. So what the beam creates for us, as you can see it flashing on my hand, is a light that we can use to level. So you take your tape measure, set it on top of here, and you can see right here, we're at 9.5 inches, roughly, between 9 and 9/16. And so what we'll do is we'll go through and we'll measure it at every point of support and raise and lower it so they all match the same. That makes a perfectly level surface for us to work with. And we start with our fixed point, which is the table.
I am 10 and 9/16 on the table. There.
Okay.
Now we're good.
So from the top of this, I'm 8 1/8.
8 1/8 inch.
Do that to each of these. So see here the red line's at 8 7/8. So this one has to come up to bring it to 8 1/8. 8 1/8. Holy cow. We're at 11 1/4 down here. 8 1/8. All right, so now this piece of pipe is level all the way down. Oh, freaking itchy nose, dude. So now we're gonna start infilling the parts that we talked about before. This, being a part B, is our vertical. So we're gonna go through, put those in roughly where they go, and then we'll tailor everything according to our diagonals. So now one of the biggest issues that we run into when we're infilling all of this, these pipes don't necessarily want to stay tight together. Our solution is a ratchet strap. But if you have an idea on how to make this better, you let us know in the comments. So now when we send kits off for these, we send the dimensions on where to mark. We're not taking the time to do that right now, so we're just going ahead and infilling the whole thing, and then we'll go back in, make sure everything's tight and square, and that will tell us where everything's supposed to be. We've put everything in, but you can see we're like 4.5, 5 inches away from the edge. So this part can't go in quite yet because we have to go through and square everything up.
38 11 5/8. Skinny powers activate. 38 11 5/8.
Okay, so we're good there. I'm just gonna hold you in the exact same spot on both.
39 2 3/8. 39 1 7/8.
Okay, so we're a 1/2 inch out. If you take that tail and go that way 1/4 inch, that should bring us in, which is accurate for how it looks down here.
So we're almost there. 39 2 1/8. 39 2 1/8.
Ding, 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 we are square.
As one of the very few Wyoming-based franchise companies out there, we're launching territories right now in Idaho, Utah, Colorado, Montana, Nebraska, and Wyoming. And if you've always watched our videos and thought, I could do that, this opportunity may be for you.
So it's important that we square up the entire outer frame first, because if we go to tacking all this in and we're squared in individual spots, That won't matter if our frame is askew. I'm sure that we'll get some of you guys out there in the comments saying, you're not using a long enough square. It has to be long enough to actually affect it. And in most cases, you'd be right, especially with wood or with anything that might be bowed. This long piece, we're not going to be able to do anything about it if it is bowed. And this short piece is so short, and it should be straight because we use straight material. So that's why we're able to use this. If we can use this and get it in square, this will be perfectly close enough to run in our rollers.
Why do they call it a square when it's a triangle?
Everything's tacked up. Everything's square. Now, we've looked down it, and they still look straight, but just to be sure, we want to make sure that we check for square.
39.2 1/4. 39.2, we're gonna say just maybe a fuzz over 1/4.
Perfect.
So we are within tolerance. Tolerance, we try and stay plus or minus an eighth.
I used to work oil field. Their saying was, if I can walk across it, I can weld it. We like to be a little tighter than that, just because, one, we're welding galvanized. It doesn't handle a big gap very well. We also are using a little bit of a trick that we figured out. If we use flux core weld wire, then also use an outer shield gas. So we're running a flux cored wire like it's a dual shield wire. We tend to get a much prettier, much stronger weld. So we end up with less porosity, stronger weld, as well as it flows better with the galvanized material. So here we're gonna check that my mic is still on, actually. It is still on. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure. I have nightmares about that. Okay, sorry, go ahead. Now we're going on to the last little bit of welding that we have to do. These were just made for structural support for our barbed wire. You don't have to go every single one, but for the sake of beauty, we are gonna go on all of the inner 4. And this is just gonna help support the barbed wire and protect it. But because of our rollers that will roll along this top and bottom rail, we have to be positioned away and away this way so that we don't come in contact with those rollers. The other thing we're gonna work on right now is the compression arch. We're going to work on the Bendtech a little bit and cut those parts out so that we can then weld it on here. And then we're moving on to installing the fabric. So when it comes to our compression arch pieces, we don't want to put those right in the middle of our gate, because if you're putting a gate operator on here, you want room for this compression arch to be above the gate operator, since it's on the same side. So rather than measuring up to the middle, we measure 1 foot past the middle, which puts us toward the top of the gate. And this is the wrong spot anyways. It's not going on the 2 3/8. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna measure to the same spot on the 2 3/8 on both ends, and then I'll put a string across and mark where each one goes. So we're gonna do that, and then we'll tack these in place.
We've got some fresh new young talent doing some things that I know you haven't heard before.
1, 2, 3, listen.
All right, so with our braces in place, we're ready for the actual arch of the compression arch. We gotta cope this end. We're just gonna use the pipe nipper. It's not gonna give us a perfect cope to the 2 3/8, but it'll make it much, much closer for our weld. We'll tack it down here at this end. We'll add another length of it, because it's too short. We'll drape it across these and bend it into place, tacking it as we go. And what that does is it creates some triangulation or arch that prevents the whole gate itself from flapping in the wind. With everything welded up, we're ready to start installing the fabric. Being a 7-foot gate, this span in here is 6 feet, so we'll be using 6 feet 9-gauge fabric. But before we can fabric, we have to install, I don't remember what that's called. Shoot. Tension wire? I think it's tension wire. But before we fabric, we have to install tension wire, because rollers rolling on this top and bottom rail means that we can't have any brace bands or tension bands on the rail, and we can't have any twist ties there either. So instead, we use tension wire and hog rings for the top and bottom, and then our typical tension bands on the ends. Right. That dimple there deforms the threads and makes it so that that nut can't come off of there easily. All of yours will be pointing that way. So here we're adding twist ties that hold the tension wire tight to the fence. Yeah, because that is more of a tweak than what I want to have to deal with. This one we can fix, but oh, I hate 9 gauge. Yep, perfect. The rest of this is just like a normal chain link gate. Tension bars, then we'll add tension bands, then we'll go through with twist ties. Make sure that we straighten everything out if it's got any spots that aren't perfect. Then we're gonna go along here and just kind of make sure that it's dressed. We're gonna try and keep it real close to the same distance up and down. Okay, so that tension's good. I take the fabric and I can't really squeeze it. So the fabric is good and tight throughout the whole gate. We're good, except our tension bar is too far away from the pipe to put our bands on. There. Half. Yeah, right there. Good. Whew. All right, so I talked to the guys that are going to be installing this, and they asked us to not put barbed wire on it yet so that it will transport a little better. We don't want to deal with kinking the barbed wire, making it look bad, breaking it. So we're leaving the barbed wire off of it for now. They're going to install that out in the field. We're ready to just flip this up, put the last of our twist ties in, and it's done. Well, the shop fabrication side of this gate is all done. We're ready to send it off to the next stage, and we're gonna send it off to Dan to be installed. So thanks again for watching, and you have a good dang day.